Yeah. So, Eric, I was wondering, do you remember like when I used to come in the traffic department when we used to work in radio together? What did we even talk about? I was trying to remember like what we talked about. Do you have anything that comes to mind?
We just mostly just talked about life in general. We asked, about what's going on and just kind of remembering back when, how many times we got fired from radio stations and stuff like that.
Did we ever talk about health when we talked back then? I don't think we did we?
No, because no, I don't remember ever. I don't remember ever even thinking about health back in those days.
Yeah. It's probably pretty normal. Most guys don't really talk about their health. I mean, we should, but we don't. And a lot of times when we're younger, we don't even think about it. But that's what we're going to do today. We're going to have a conversation about health, where we're at, what we're still trying to figure out. And that's what Who Cares About Men's Health is all about. Men talking about their health and providing some information, inspiration, and a different interpretation of men's health. Eric Taylor's on the show today. He's a longtime friend. I met him 26 years ago. We worked together when I moved here to Salt Lake City in radio, but we haven't actually talked for a long time. I've just been following him on social media, and Eric's been on his own health journey. And I wanted to bring you on the show, Eric, and find out what's up. So that's what we're going to do today. You're willing to tell us what's up?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, my name's Scott. I bring the BS. Of course, we got the usual crew here. Dr. John Smith. He's the MD to my BS.
Good afternoon.
And producer Mitch, who used to pretend health didn't matter, but he's slowly becoming one of us.
It always mattered. Always mattered. But now I actually care about it. So.
And Eric, and I'm really excited to dive into this conversation. So I've been watching your kind of health journey. We joked at the beginning that, we didn't even probably think about health back 15 years ago when we were kind of still talking. When did it start mattering?
The first time that I thought about it, I had a doctor tell me, and this was right before my 40th birthday. Doctor tell me that in my current path, I was not going to be around for about a year. That was about it. At that time, I was closing in at about 300 pounds, and I just was not in a good place spiritually, physically, mentally. So at that point, I decided to lose 40 pounds by my 40th birthday, which was about 7 months away from when I found out that information. But when I think about it, really leaving radio actually changed quite a lot of things because as Scott will tell you, radio is a very stressful job. I mean, it's the only business I can think of where they'll just fire you because they want to change a format. And it doesn't matter like what ratings you have or anything like that. They just want to, or we're going to go a different direction, right? And so when I left radio, my emotional and physical health became so much better. I mean, I lost 15 pounds in the first 2 months.
Oh, wow.
And the amazing thing, and Scott, you can vouch for this as well, like radio, there's just food all the time at the station.
There is, right?
Like donuts just show up. I don't know where they came from. They were just there all the time. And listeners are bringing food and restaurants are dropping off meals for a mention. And you have birthday cakes for coworkers and client lunches. And like I even did like a half-pound burger challenge live on one of my remotes, stuff like that. And it just revolved around food. And once I left that radio world, I'm like, hey, I can live without donuts. And so that's kind of where it really kind of started. So probably about 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah. It was the doctor. I mean, the doctor seriously said the path you're on, you got about a year.
Yeah, absolutely.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like, was he being dramatic or do you think he's being serious?
When I saw my numbers, and I don't know what numbers are, like I don't know what they mean, but I just knew that those numbers were higher than probably they should have been.
They were in the red.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
When that happened, I started looking into things, and so I went back a year later, and he told me, and this was the first time I think I've ever had a doctor of any way tell me, just keep doing what you're doing, because I lost the 40 pounds. And I totally turned my numbers around and just kind of changed my lifestyle.
Dr. Smith, have you ever had to tell somebody, like, man, you keep on this road, you got about a year? Is that ever, I know you're a urologist, so probably not, but.
I mean, I've never had to say a year. I think there's people who, I see folks who come in with, certain health problems that cause the health problems that make them come see me. And I will have really direct conversations with them of, you will lose feeling in your hands, feet, and you will lose your eyesight in the next, few years if you don't change your behavior, especially diabetics, because those guys, those folks that have high blood sugars, that stuff is very toxic to the nervous system. And so I'll tell them that kind of thing as not a scare tactic, but just say, hey, this is where we're headed. And so, but I've never sat down with someone, especially not someone who's in their late 30s, and said, hey, buddy, this is looking like 12 months out. Hey, what changed? Did you notice a change in your attitude? I mean, what really got you to turn? What's the
motivation?
What's the motivation for you? Like, what keeps your motor running?
To be honest with you, at that point, it was just being a father. I looked at the option of my wife having to raise our kids by herself, and it scared me. The thought of not attending my kids' graduations or my kids' weddings and all these different things, and it really scared me. And I was like, you know what, I really got to make a change in this.
So like your physical health, you mentioned that you were aware of your mental and emotional health. It sounds like, were you aware at the time that was an issue, or is that in retrospect? Like, when did more of a holistic idea of health? Because a lot of times, like if you're like me, for the longest time, health was my physical appearance, right? And if I was healthy, that meant I was like ripped and I looked good. And I didn't really think about anything else. When did other aspects of health start kind of creeping into your reality?
It actually kind of started about the same time. I figured there were like 6 areas of focus I wanted to focus on in my life. So I had the spiritual, the physical, intellectual, family, emotional, social. I call them SPIFEs. That's my own acronym for them.
Like it.
And I go through this, and I focus on one SMART goal for each area every single month, and I just kind of change that. I try to just do better in each of those areas as much as I can.
Where did you come up with that concept?
I read a book, and I don't even remember what book it was, but I read a book about just focusing on different areas like that. And so I started looking at those areas of what I wanted to do. Benjamin Franklin actually has a very famous where he checked off things that he wanted to have done every day. And it was kind of based on that as well. And so I just started looking at it. And the great thing about it, the reason I love it is because, like, for example, if I just said, okay, I'm going to lose 50 pounds, and then at that point I start giving myself all these strict rules, drink a gallon of water, walk 10,000 steps, and cut out sugar, and get 8 hours of sleep, I'm going to burn myself out. I'm not going to want to do that anymore. But if I pick one habit from each of my focus areas and stick with that for a month, then the next month I just build on it, and it's much more doable for me. So, for example, if this month I'm drinking more water, next month I'll add 10,000 steps, and so on and so forth. And then eventually I'm doing what I want to do, but I'm not doing it all at once. I'm not just saying, I got to do this now, otherwise I'm going to, you always have to look at it in a way that I don't want to fail. I'm trying to make sure I don't set myself up to fail, if that makes sense.
What I find really interesting when I hear someone who has had success or who has had a real intense turning point or has really focused on things is that, we try to make it as simple as possible here on this show. We have the core four, right? And I heard a lot of the same sort of things in those 6. Like, how are you able to find, I guess, the time to kind of act on all 6 of those things? Because, I did a try 7 challenge thing, and I had 7 things I had to do every day, and I failed within 2 months, but then again, I didn't have the same type of motivation at the time, yada, yada. But how are you able to kind of keep growing in those 6 ways?
I try to keep them as simple as possible. For example, let's just look at this month's goals. My spiritual goal, I'm reading right now about the life of Jesus in preparation for Easter next month. My physical, I just decided to add more steps to my day. Intellectual, I have my own podcast, and so I told myself I need to write an episode every week just to keep my mind going with that. With my family, I just do a regular check-in with my kids. I have a daughter who just got married, so I especially want to check in with her. And I have a son who's going to the University of Utah, and I don't see him very often because he's working and we work different times and whatnot. Emotional, I'm just looking at finding the bad habits and replacing them. And then social, this month, I actually have a goal to reconnect with old friends. And thanks, Scott, you just made that one happen. So that one worked. Check.
That's why you were so quick to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was surprised how quickly Eric said yes, but okay. I'm just one of his 7 goals, I guess.
Yep, absolutely.
What I'm hearing is something that we've talked about a lot. First of all, whatever we do has to be sustainable, right? Sustainable is kind of the most important thing. And it sounds like you're kind of keyed in on that. And then the other thing is build on the previous successes. Don't think that you're going to be somebody completely different in any of those areas than you were the day before. So, you're just adding more steps, right? As opposed to going, oh, I need to do a bunch of steps that I've never done before. Am I getting that right? Am I hearing that right?
That is right. Yeah. I just add to it each month, because once I get in that habit, then it's just kind of easy to just kind of add to certain things. And yes, sustainable is absolutely one of the best ways to be able to pull off these goals that I have.
And how long ago was this when you started this journey? When was your turning point?
About, let's see, 13 years ago, I guess it is.
13 years ago?
Yeah.
All right. So it's just been always successes, right? Which I know is not true because.
Yeah, I am just the model of the perfect individual at this point. No, it's been failure after failure, but I jump back up and I just keep going. So
I bring that up because I remember a couple of years ago at the end of the year, I think it was, you were like, I failed in all of my aspects. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's breaking my heart. Does that happen a lot that you kind of reflect and think, wow, I've really failed? Was that kind of a one-time thing? I think talking about our failures is just about as important as talking about our successes and how we navigate through those and how we react to those.
And that was after COVID. And there was just, I'm an emotional eater. And a lot of people don't understand that concept of emotional eating. You're stressed, you eat. You're sad, you eat. You're happy, you eat. You're hungry, you eat. Whatever it is, right? And during that time frame with COVID, I was getting my master's degree, and it was just a stressful time. And so I was gaining weight faster than I wanted to, and then it was just a whole big thing, and I just saw myself just spiraling down, and it was hard to watch. I think we tend to be harder on ourselves than we should be, and I just saw that post again. It popped up to remind me about that. I'm like, thank you for reminding me about that.
Right, thanks, stupid Mark.
But anyway, but it was good because it reminded me that I don't always have to be perfect, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is so often when we're trying to change ourselves, we think, oh man, I got to be perfect on this. And you really don't. And you really can't. That's the other part is it's not going to happen. So be easy on yourself and just realize you'll make mistakes and then just fix them, however that may be.
So you've been doing this over a decade.
I have, yeah.
And obviously, you mentioned this one time where, you failed at all these things, but what gets you back on track when you hit that moment, when you've had these little, bumps in the road, backslides, whatever terminology you want to use? What's the thing that gets you back on track and just kind of refocuses you? Give us the secrets.
Going back again, I mean, my kids are a big influence on me. I just, and just trying to be the best person that I can be. Like so many people, and this is going to sound kind of egotistical, and I don't mean it to at all, but there's so many people that are like, oh, dude, you're such a great person and whatever like that. And I almost feel like that I need to live up to that standard for them. Even though I shouldn't care what people say. And so I'm always like looking at myself and I say, you know what? I can be better than who I am today. But at the same time, I have come to accept that I don't need to be perfect. I'm not trying to do this for anyone else but myself. And that was a big step for me, like to realize that I'm doing this. I mean, like I said, I'm doing it for my kids as well and my wife, but I'm really I want to be the best that I can be and just be able to expand my life because I've been given the gifts to be able to do this. Why not use them?
How's your weight doing? I know that you said you're an emotional eater, and I get the feeling based on the social posts, it fluctuates a lot. Where are you at right now?
Right now, I am a little heavier than I want to be. I've gained about, with a master's program, I gained about 15 pounds, and I'm currently trying to work that off.
That's about right? They say this like freshman 15, whatever. Yeah,
it was that was a crazy thing to do while working full time and all that. But I think I'm slowly losing the weight again. I've always tried to do it in a slow way instead of just trying, I got to lose 50 pounds in the next 2 weeks or whatever. I always set a goal to try to lose 50 pounds for the year, which is a pound a week, around there. And that gives me a couple extra weeks just in case, like Christmas, where I know I'm not going to lose any weight.
Hey, set realistic goals. I love that.
I think that's an important thing, is just set your goals, but don't make them so out there that you just know you're not going to do it, because you're just setting yourself up for failure. Like, make sure you're setting the goals that you can reach. But if you don't reach it, don't kick yourself and be like, man, I should have walked 10,000 steps today and I only got 8,000. I am a loser, like, and I get it, because I've been in that situation. As Scott mentioned, I've been like, oh man, I failed. But you just don't think of it that way. Just think of, I got to get through this. I can do this, and you'll have success. I think. I honestly believe that.
I want to call out a couple things on the goals. First of all, you mentioned SMART goals, which is something we've talked about on the show before. So I think that's worth bringing back up, what a SMART goal is. And second of all, I think instead of framing it as failure, what's worked for me is framing it as, well, that didn't work out the way I expected. Why? And then doing some sort of an analysis of, okay, well, I see why. I usually get all my steps at school, but that's not happening right now because we're in this weird time. So I got to figure out, if I want those extra 500 steps, where in my day I'm going to plug them in. Or, I'm getting shorted at school, so I guess I've got to schedule a half hour later tonight to go out on a walk or something like that. Like, why are we failing? I think that reflection is super important. So talk about SMART goals.
So SMART goal is an acronym: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. You want to be able to have these goals set. So when it's specific, you just can't say, I want to lose 50 pounds. Be specific of what you want to achieve and where and how and whatever you're going to do to just be able to lose that. Measurable, it needs to be something that you can track. You can track losing weight. I weigh myself every day, and I have this spreadsheet that I created. And I go in there and I see, and it shows me it's great. It has a whole chart that shows where I should be and where I am and all that. I love it. And then achievable goals. Once again, we talked about this, but just set the goals that are realistic and attainable. Don't just wake up in the morning and say, you know what, I'm not going to eat sugar ever again, because you will fail at that huge. Trust me on this one. So set it realistic, attainable. But you also want to stretch your abilities. You don't want to just pick something easy. You don't want to just be like, oh, I'm going to make 30 steps today. Like, you need to make it so that you can stretch your abilities with that. And then relevant, make sure your goals align with your overall objectives. You want to make sure that it's relevant to your life. Don't just make it just because you feel like you have to do it or whatever it may be. And then the time-bound part of it of SMART is just set the deadlines for completion. When do you want to lose the 50 pounds? I want to lose 50 pounds by my 50th birthday or whatever it may be. Set those deadlines for completion on anything. So if you want to read a book, say, I want to read this book by the end of the month, or I want to read this book by the time that, 4th of July or whatever it may be. But set those deadlines for completion.
I'm always fascinated by other people's journeys, and I feel like I can learn a ton from them. And so I'm always wanting to pick the little things that I'm not good at and be like, okay, what is he doing that I can do better? And I think it's awesome. Those SMART goals, that's a good reminder. I've heard that before, but I don't necessarily always set my goals that way. So I think those are awesome things, and to really focus in and to get back to it. But Mitch, what you got?
So in the same vein, John, when I hear someone with a success story, my brain goes immediately to, okay, what can I learn? What is different in this situation? Will it work for me? Can I try these things out? And the weird question I have, as someone who has tried 1,000,001 systems, and I'm starting to find out that maybe my brain just doesn't like certain types of systems, et cetera. Can you talk to me a little bit about this Excel spreadsheet? What are you writing into it? Is it just text, or how are you, tracking all of this in a way that is meaningful and motivating? And when you see it and you're like, I didn't achieve my goal, you still can hop back on.
Yeah, I can definitely. So I have a weigh-in sheet that I do. I started every year in January, and it shows me, I could put in my weight for the day. It shows the change that I have. It shows the weekly totals. And then my official weigh-in is Wednesday. That's the one that I count as how much I've lost. Cause I feel like it's far enough away from the weekend that any failure that I do on the weekend, you know what I mean? So
I used to have my official weigh in on a Monday, and that was a bad idea.
Yeah, it's not. I did the same thing. It was like, oh wow, I ate a whole pizza. That's crazy. So I do that, and I just go through and I have it set up, and I could even email you, and you can see it. But it just goes through, and when I put in the stuff, it shows me my BMI, it shows me where I should be, the trend, and I even have a chart that shows it on there. And on top of it, I also have my mission statement, which is I commit to a healthier lifestyle to inspire my family and live a long, fulfilling life.
Ooh.
And I keep that up there so that way I can be reminded of why I'm doing this. This is my why. My why is because I'm doing this to make sure that I'm still around when my kids need, when they have kids and whatever it may be. So,
wow, that mission statement just put me back. That was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very cool. I love that you have that up there. Maybe you could get somebody to crochet it for you and put it somewhere in your house. Do you think?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So when you go to the doctor now, I mean, do you have a pretty good relationship with your doctor, or is it always different doctors? And like, what's their feedback nowadays? What does that look like?
Nowadays, my doctor, he mostly likes where I'm going. Every once in a while, he'll remind me, you need to lose weight. But overall, my numbers are still down where they should be. In fact, the last time I went to him, I think it was in August, I was nervous because I had gained some weight and I was really nervous about where my numbers were going to be. And he came back and said, oh, actually, everything dropped again. I'm like, are you serious? Did you run the right blood? I don't think that's right. I didn't argue with him, but yeah, it was kind of crazy, but it is nice because he understands where I want to be, and where I've been. And so he really kind of pushes me and says, this could probably help you. He's given me some books to read. He's told me some things to help out. Yeah, he and I have a great relationship, and very rarely does he tell me that I suck anymore. So, not that he ever did, but
Well, I mean, one could interpret you got a year to live.
Right.
You kind of suck right now. Do you have anybody that helps you with your mental health or emotional health? Do you do anything like books or counseling or anything like that?
I meditate every day. That's one of the goals that I set years ago. In fact, I just think I hit like day 436 on my daily meditation app. And that's one of the things that, when I get into the classroom here, I teach junior high. And so I have my lights off when I first get in here, and I turn that on and I just breathe because I know the day that's about to happen. And so I get that meditation in. And that's all. I don't have any specific people that I see about my mental health or anything like that. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but meditation seems to help me quite a bit with that.
Right, journaling, anything like that?
I do a gratitude journal every single day, and then also I try to write once a week in just a journal to just kind of keep updated on what my life's like, so that way. I used to try to do it every day, but I realized my life was not that exciting to write every day. I taught 8th graders today. Ooh, right, wow. Right, and so what I do is I keep a notebook and I just write down important things that happen throughout the week. And then I just put those in my journal later on. Usually on Sunday, I'll write what I did.
How does that help you, do you think?
I think it helps out a lot because it shows me the good things that I've done throughout the week. The gratitude journal really helps because it in the days that I feel just awful, I try to find the things that I am extremely grateful for. And so I will take those and it really does help you to understand, it's not all about losing weight. It's not all about this. Like there's some good things happening in the world and find those and make sure you mention them in your journals or just take advantage of searching out the good things in the world, I say.
Well, it sounds to me like you've got a lot of things with your attitude, which I think is really, really awesome because, there's a lot of studies out there that talk about people who have positive thinking and positive attitudes tend to have lower health issues and have less severe health problems. And so I think I just wanted to highlight that from a medical perspective of there is literature out there that shows that people who engage in these things and stay positive instead of looking at, the things that may be upsetting or things that may, bring you down, you're looking at the world from a different paradigm. You've shifted the lens and you're seeing things in a more positive light. I just think positivity goes a long way, and your upbeat attitude during the interview, I'm just like, man, I love it. It makes me want to feed on it.
Good energy, right?
Yeah,
Good energy.
great.
So when you aren't feeling positive though, do you let yourself kind of feel down ever? I mean, or you just like, what does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, there are times, but most of the time I try to just be like, you know what, you got this. Like, it's just a matter of just kind of talking myself into it. And that's not to say that I'm always perfect in that situation either, but it's just, I really strive to, and I have found, especially in my house, that if I'm in a bad mood, the rest of my family becomes in a bad mood as well. And so I don't want that. I don't want that to be on them. And I definitely don't want to be the one that's bringing that into the home.
Getting kind of ready to wrap this up. I want to know, since you got that first indication that, boy, I guess I should be paying attention to my health. What's your proudest accomplishment when it comes to your health?
The biggest thing is I realized I don't need soda pop. That was like,
I love it. That's perfect.
I mean, it was crazy because like, I don't know if you remember, but I used to drink like 64 to 128 ounces of Dr. Pepper every day while I was in radio. Like it was a crazy amount. And whenever I'd go out for dinner, I always had to have soda because I'm like, this isn't happening. Like, well, you can't have water with a hamburger. Like that just doesn't work, right?
Right. Or water, pizza. What are you doing?
Right. Where's the root
Those
here,
are
right?
facts.
Exactly. But when I started thinking about it and I started drinking more water and I started trying to get as much water as I could during the day, I realized I don't need soda. And so when I go to a restaurant, I just get water. And the first time I did that, I was like, wait, what did I just say? Like that was a weird thing. But and that doesn't say that I still on occasion will drink some soda or whatever. But overall, I just like one of the last times that I had one of my favorites, it was so sweet. I was like, what is this? Like, did they just add a whole bunch of sugar to this? It's just it's crazy. That was like one of the biggest wins that I have seen in a very long time.
I love it. I love that because sometimes when we think big wins, we think it has to be huge, right? And sometimes we're like, oh, that's going to be a silly answer. And it was a great answer because, wow, proving to yourself that you don't need something that's not necessarily great for you. What a great kind of accomplishment. So what's been your biggest setback and how did you overcome it?
As I mentioned, my biggest setback is I'm just an emotional eater.
Yeah.
And I haven't fully overcome that, but I try. But it's just one of those things where there are days that I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm stopping at Arby's on the way home. Like that's, I don't care. I'm doing this. And so trying to overcome that is probably the hardest thing I've ever had to, because it's so ingrained in me. It's just one. I mean, I think it goes back to childhood. When mom wanted me to feel good whenever I was feeling down, she would make me cake or whatever it was, right? And so I think that all that just kind of goes into that.
I mean, we've all been there, right? Like I've slipped up times, and sometimes just on the way home, you buy a container of cookie dough at Papa Murphy's Pizza. You don't buy a pizza, you just buy the cookie dough.
So wait, I'm not the only one that's done that?
Yeah. Sometimes you buy a couple of beers to go with that cookie dough at Maverick, and people at Papa Murphy's and Maverick could just shut up. They don't they don't know me. I don't need their judgment. All right. Well, guys, Eric, this has been great. It's been so fun catching up with you. And I remember why I used to just come in to your office and we just chat, because you're just such a, I think John hit it. I don't know that I ever really put this together. You got a lot of positive energy. We always had some good laughs. We had a good time. So it's been great having you on the show. Any takeaways? Mitch, let's start with you. What did you get out of this?
So the thing that I really appreciate really is that attitude and that mission statement, because I have a magic board. I write everything on the little board of all my goals and everything like that. I've tried the SMART thing, etc. And it's never really worked for me, but I'm now also realizing that like maybe a mission statement is something that I've been missing. maybe it's not just your big why, but like, having this long, like values based statement. So I think I'm going to try that out. Because I think
you could do the mission statement with the different aspects. You could do it with your physical health. You could do it with your relationships. Like, I go out with other people because, and then your mission statement, kind of like Eric had. That's great. Dr. Smith.
No, this has been awesome, man. Again, the positive energy. And then I think, just the renewedness of you, setting goals, doing those things that like I right now am slacking in doing. I haven't set goals like I should have. It's super inspiring. And so I really appreciate you coming on. I would come by your office if I knew where it was and chat too. I think it's awesome.
My takeaway, not only all the great things that you said, Eric, and what everybody else said, but did you guys notice themes? It's almost like he listens to the podcast. I know he hasn't. I'm pretty sure he hasn't. I guess I don't know. But like SMART goals, we talked about that. Gratitude, we've talked about that. Making sure that your goals are achievable, making sure that you are sustainable. Like all these things that we've kind of talked about are coming back at us again, which kind of indicates to me it might not work for everybody. As Mitch has pointed out, everybody has their own journey, but that these are some pretty solid kind of core principles that I think are worth exploring. So that's kind of really what I got out of it. So I really appreciate you being on the show, Eric. If you would like to comment, or you have something you would like to say or add to the conversation, it's so easy to get a hold of us. The email is hello@thescoperadio.com. That's hello@thescoperadio.com. Thanks for listening. Thanks for caring about men's health. And we got to do this again soon, Eric.
I agree. Thank you, Scott.